In today's episode, we are looking at being cheap versus being frugal. What is the difference? And what are the benefits? Which makes more sense and which doesn't? At the end of the day, you pick what works for you. But in this episode, I just wanted to point out some of the differences and the benefits that come from being frugal rather than being cheap. Let's get into the episode. Hi, I'm Gabriela, and this is the Personal Finance and Coffee Podcast. And on this channel, we talk about money, we talk about personal finance. How can we manage the money that we work so hard for so that it gets us to the goals that we want? That feeling of working for 5 years, 10 years, and you're like, yes, I see I've made the money, but where has it all gone? We want to break that cycle. We talk about ways to invest the money so that it can grow. Now, if this is something that you find interesting, please like this episode and subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss upcoming episodes. Today we're looking at what is the difference between being frugal and being cheap. Now, the main difference between these two is simply prioritization, but we're going to get into the details of it. But being cheap means that the first thing you look at is what is the lowest price of this item, regardless of the quality, regardless of the durability and how it will function. Which one is the cheapest is the only thing that you look at. When it comes to being frugal is when you look at what are the options that I have, but not just what is the cheapest. Which one will have more use in the long run, which is more durable, which one has more function. What do I value more that I want to spend money on? Now, let us look at the benefits of being more frugal. Now, the first benefit that comes with being more frugal is that when you're more frugal, you're looking more at the long-term savings rather than the short-term savings. Because the person who is looking for something that is cheap is looking at only price. If one person, for example, buys a shoe that is more expensive, but they really like and they're going to wear often, and it's going to last them maybe a longer amount of time, maybe 5 years or more. And then a person who is looking for something that is simply cheap, they will buy a shoe that is cheaper, but it will get spoiled and they'll buy another shoe that is cheaper. So over, for example, the next 2 years, the person who bought a shoe that is expensive will have spent less and saved money in the long run. And yet, this one who has bought things that are cheap is spending more money. Now, let us keep in mind that being frugal and being cheap does not only apply for when you have a lot of money. Of course, sometimes you find that you generally do not have money. And if you need a shoe, you can only afford a shoe that is not very expensive, which does happen. Now, you may listen to this quote and you're like, but Gabi, this does not make sense. This does not apply to me. Me, I don't have money. I don't have money to buy a shoe of 200K. But you need to keep in mind that it's about prioritization. I accept sometimes we just don't have the money. Sometimes I also don't have the money. There are things that I want that are really expensive, and even though I want them, right now I can't afford them. But you find that if you're in a position to make a decision, you can choose to opt to be more frugal rather than being cheap. The benefit that comes with being more frugal is that when you're more frugal and you're able to say that there are things that I do not want to spend money on because I don't find them interesting, but then there are things that I really value and I want to spend money on. So those will be more quality and more valuable. So it increases your self-esteem. Like, you feel more confident in the decisions that you have made. Sometimes it's not that you've made a lot of money, but you're confident in the fact that I have spent money on things that I find valuable, on things that look good and they will last long. Or it could be experiences. You can say, I'm not into clothes and shoes, but I value going for a trip. So you'll spend less money on some areas and you spend more money in other areas. And frugal living is a mindset. Another benefit that comes with frugal living is that even though you're earning a lot of money, you can still choose to be frugal and be more intentional about places that you want to spend your money. The benefit that comes with being frugal living is that you are able to save up for the things that you want. Because you've said that these are things I don't want to spend money on, but I want to spend money on these. So you slowly save up for the things that you want. Now, this makes you feel like, oh, I wanted to do this and I have accomplished it, which is a nice feeling. And then it brings me to another benefit that comes with frugal living. You find more joy in life. What I'm explaining is kind of similar to value-based budgeting. Because once you're doing frugal living, you find more joy in life. You're like, you appreciate the things that you have because you have intentionally decided to spend money on these things and you really like them. It could be an experience, it could be an item, it could be a gadget, whatever you find important to you. Because you've taken time to spend money on them, you find that you enjoy your life better. And then, like I said, a benefit is that you have a more abundant mindset. Like, it's not scarcity of, I don't have enough money, I don't have enough money, I don't have enough. You're more abundant in your mind. Because being abundant in your mindset about money and being having a scarcity mindset is not necessarily based on how much money you're making. Because there are people who make a lot of money, but they still have a scarcity mindset. So they feel like, I know I have this money, but what if it goes? Money is not enough. Money does not grow on trees. Having an abundant mindset is like, fine, I don't have all the money in the world, but with the money that I have, I am able to get the things that I find valuable in this season of life. So those are some of the benefits that come with being more frugal. So you might be feeling like, but Gabi, I am not exactly frugal, let me be honest, but how can I move from being cheap to being frugal? Now, let me be honest. When it comes to me, there are areas in my life that I think I'm frugal, but then there are those that I am working on, where I feel like I'm also being cheap, but I'm working on moving to the side of being more frugal in those areas. So how do we do that? Because we as human beings, we can grow, we can change, we can learn. So how do we change from being cheap and become more frugal in certain areas of our lives? Now, the first thing that you need to do when it comes to changing from being cheap to frugal is become aware that this is going to take time. You cannot undo a lifetime of being cheap and you suddenly think that tomorrow you're going to be frugal. It will take a while. It will take some time to adjust and to unlearn these things. So that's the first thing. Accept that it will take time, but be intentional to gradually work on it. Once you know that, the second thing is to pick an area that you want to now become more frugal in. For example, if you pick your area as being home decor, and you say that this is an area that I have been cheap in, but now I want to get to the point where I will be more frugal. Or if you say that for me it's the clothes, it's the shoes, I want to change from being cheap to being frugal in this area. Let's be honest, when you're starting, you may not be able to be more frugal in every area of your life, but you pick with one and then you work on it. If maybe taking trips is an area that you're cheap in, perhaps you don't do anything, you don't go anywhere, and you simply don't prioritize it, but now you want to become more intentional to work on that. You pick an area and you start with one area and you work on that area. That is the next thing that you need to do if you're trying to shift from being cheap to being frugal. Now, the next thing that will help is to become aware of your mindset. Scarcity mindset versus abundance mindset. What do I mean? The situations where you feel like, no, I can't do this. I don't have enough money. I can't do this. I don't have enough money. And for me, when I notice this in myself, usually it comes from a place of fear. A place of fear that if I spend this money, I will not get any more money. It comes from a place of the fear of not having enough money. So I find that I buy a cheaper option because I feel like if I buy the one that is expensive, the money will be gone. So becoming aware of our scarcity mindset and how it is affecting the decisions that we are making on the things that we are buying. That is the next thing that will help in such situations. Now, after that, you will then look at what are the areas that you spend money on, but you really don't find value in them. You find that perhaps you spend on things out of peer pressure, out of everyone is doing it, but you don't exactly enjoy it. What are those areas that you want to reduce or cut those expenses so that you then move money to that area that you already decided that this is an area I want to be more frugal in? You identify those that you don't find value in, and then you move money to the areas that you now want to become more frugal about, to where you want to buy more quality. Now, once you've done that, next is to be patient and do your research. If you want to become more frugal and, for example, buy better electronics, buy better gadgets, you need to take your time and understand which brands are better, which ones are durable, what are the prices in different places. When you're being more frugal, you take time to understand the area that you want to be more frugal. By the time you make a purchase, by the time you make a decision, you find that you have actually understood it, and by the time you make the purchase, it will last you much longer. So in the process of buying, once you have picked the area you want to be more frugal in, and then you've moved money to that area, now at the point of buying, become more patient and take the time to look at different places that you want to compare prices to. That is why I said you cannot be frugal in every area of your life. You pick a few and you work on it. It is a process. At the end of the day, guys, there is no right or wrong for everyone. There's no one rule. If it is a season of life where the math is not mathing, guys, I'm not saying go and borrow money just to be that doesn't make sense. You only work with what you have, and I do understand that. This is something that I am sharing. If you find yourself in a position where perhaps you have a little bit more money, and now you're like, but you still find yourself in the default setting of buying cheap items, even when now you're not exactly in the position you were in a few years back. So this is why I'm sharing this information, that you can get some tips and ideas on how to slowly work towards being more frugal. Now, this is content that I am also working on, the areas in my life that I'm trying to grow in this aspect, and we're on this journey together. If this is something you found valuable, please like this episode, please subscribe so that you don't miss upcoming episodes. I'll see you in the next one. Bye guys.